It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large with Warner Lewis. 60 minutes of smart talk radio with interesting guests from all walks of life begins right now. So sit back and enjoy. And now, from the flight deck, here's your host, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck. And, of course, that means some smart talk radio is in your future. And this segment, a good one. We're going to have a good one indeed. We're going to be talking to Tyler Cohen Wood. Who is Tyler Cohen Wood? She's an expert in social media and cyber issues. She is a senior officer and cyber branch chief for the Defense Intelligence Agency within the Department of Defense. If that is not enough, she has put together what we believe is an important new work called Catching the Catfishers. It's by, an extraordinary look on how you can protect your identity and data from being hijacked and used to harm your kids, distort your reputation. The work provides all kinds of strategies, tips, etc. about this entire world in which we are immersed in, and that, of course, is cybercrime at one form or another. Tyler, how are you, my friend?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're happy to have you here. We do not talk about this subject probably enough on this show, but we need to, and this is a great starting point. Share, just do this, if you would, for our Lewis at Large listeners. Give us a little bit more of your background.
So before I joined the Defense Intelligence Agency, I worked for the Department of Defense Cybercrime Center as a digital forensic analyst. And most of my background is supporting federal, local, or state law enforcement doing digital forensic cases. And a lot of them involved fraud or the exploitation of children. So that's really where a lot of my experience and interest in getting this book out there came from, was looking at victims and thinking of how I could help them.
I've got one basic question. Catching the Catfishers. When a work like this comes out, and this isn't meant to be cynical, it's a broader view, is it instantly dated because new things are happening that you couldn't and wouldn't have known about when it was published?
If I were to talk about specific tools and limit myself to specific, social media platforms, the answer to that question would be yes. But it's mostly about the theory and the topics, because the privacy issues, at least for the next, 5 to 6 years, it's not going to change. And the way that you interact, that's not going to change. But, to an extent, though, at the same time, too, there's going to be new technologies that are coming out, and that's going to be the next book.
Well, tell us, share if you would, it's called Catching the Catfishers, Disarm the Online Predators, Pretenders, and Perpetrators Who Are Out to Ruin Your Life. Talk us about the term catfisher.
Well, the term catfisher has kind of taken on a meaning of its own. It started off as a documentary, and then became that documentary then became the MTV show that we know called Catfishers. And the term, for a while sort of meant people who were online dating, and the person that they were online dating turned out to be someone completely different. But now the word catfishing just really means anyone who's lying to you, whether, it's someone who's lying to you about a couple inches to their height, or if it's a predator who's targeting your child, or someone who is targeting you to try to scam or fraud you out of money. So it's someone who's lying to you online.
How, let's keep this subject focused on we as Americans, but how prepared are we? Are we hopelessly clueless on a continuum scale in battling this and understanding it, or are we getting smarter and smarter all the time?
Well, when I started the process of writing this book, I looked around for manuals that really teach people the skill sets that I teach in this book. How to manage your image online, how to protect your privacy, how to protect your kids, how to read deception in the online domain, how to vet if who you and your children are talking to are really who they say they are. And there's just nothing out there. So I think the problem is that this technology comes out so quickly, and we all jump on the bandwagon. We all use it because it's instant access, but we don't really take a step back to look at the issues that the issues to our privacy or to protecting ourselves. So I don't know if I'd use the word hopelessly clueless, but I think we have a lot to learn.
Do you, in the work that you do, it is very, very proactive. I'm curious, how about American companies, private companies? How good are they? How well do they educate the people that work for them, and how good are their security systems? I know that's a big, broad question, but if you want, keep it to the Fortune 500 companies.
Well, they do what they can, but the problem is, again, with technology and the way that we interact with this technology and the way that we conduct business, there's more and more threats that pop up on an almost daily basis, and it's very hard to keep up with all of these threats. In fact, I've written a couple of articles and do some public speaking specifically for protecting businesses' corporate intellectual property and their tradecraft, and using, mobile devices. And I think that there's a lot to be learned in that area as well.
Again, if you've just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio. Got a good one going here. We're talking about defending and protecting your privacy with Tyler Cohen Wood. She is an analyst and an expert in social media and cyber issues. She's a senior officer and cyber branch chief for the Defense Intelligence Agency within the Department of Defense. Tyler, within the book, I know you've got lots of tips, lots of observations, lots of sort of rules to live by. Are there some specific things that you can tell us? Just how should we approach our identity out there? How should we approach this whole issue of security as individuals?
Well, security as individuals, first off, we have to, you mentioned something really important, and that's how do we approach managing our identity. And that's something that we have to do. A lot of people don't realize that, first off, a lot of the things that they choose to self-disclose give away a lot of information about themselves or about their kids that could be putting themselves at risk, but they're also putting up information that they might think is just something their friends are seeing, or it's a one-time post, but they're creating this whole online identity, and it's something that your companies, HR professionals, future college boards, they look at these identities and they determine who you are as a person based on the things that you post. And so you really want to be cognizant of that, and you want to manage that image so that you're showing who you really are and what you want these people to see.
What about, and I don't want to drill down too much, but in terms of specifics, let's talk about passwords. Tell us, my gosh, yeah. You love them, you hate them. We have more and more of them now. Tell us, how do we need to look at those things?
Well, unfortunately, it's something that just keeps coming up, over and over. We keep having these attacks on businesses that we use that are out of our control, like the Heartbleed bug, where that's something that, companies have to fix, or, the Target attack, or the Michaels attack, or the Neiman Marcus, and so on and so on. So we're finding that we really should be changing our passwords. I would at this point say, every month to 6 weeks. And really make it something difficult. Don't pick, your dog's name or your husband's birthday or something that's easy to guess. And it is something, you should keep up with, and it's something you should change on a pretty frequent basis, especially these days. And
you've got millions of aging baby boomers going, I can't think of anything I would be worse at. I can't even remember my own driver's license number, let alone 5,000 different passwords. Any tricks to the trade there, or you just got to power through it?
Well, there are some programs that will encrypt your password, all the passwords that you use, and you just have to have one big password to unlock that list of passwords, and it's encrypted, and some of them tend to be pretty safe. And that's something that you could use to kind of help organize your passwords. Because you're right. You want to use different passwords. You want to keep them updated. And it's really hard because a lot of us will, when we have to change our passwords, we'll just change, let's just change one letter or one number. And we really should we should make it a lot more difficult.
What about just the big, this is a big subject too, and that is what parents can do keeping kids safe from predators, phishing, cyber bullies, that whole subject. And let's just put it under the banner of protecting minors.
Well, I have a lot of checklists in my book that I recommend parents go through with their kids. And these checklists are, how to vet if someone who your child is talking to is actually who they say they are. And, I recently had an incident where a friend of mine, his daughter, his 16-year-old daughter, was talking online and dating online this 17-year-old boy that she had actually never met, but they were going to meet. And he knew I was writing this book, and he said, hey, can you, come talk to her, and let's use that checklist you were talking about. So we went through some of the first couple of items on the checklist, and I had her ask the guy if he would Skype with her or have a telephone conversation, and he made up some excuse why he couldn't. Well, that's a red flag. Then we said, well, have him send a picture of himself in real time. Well, his camera was broken, and it was something that he couldn't do. So then we took the one photograph he actually had sent her. We put it in Google image search, and it popped up on someone else's Facebook page. He had actually taken it from someone else's Facebook page. So there's a bunch of things that you can do. If someone is a predator, they're trying to create this identity, and there's always going to be red flags. There's always going to be signs, and I have put this list together. And if you just kind of go through the checklist, you can see, what a lot of these signs are. Another example is they may not have a realistic online presence, where maybe they have other social media pages, but they don't have any friends on those social media pages, or they don't have realistic banter with those friends. No one ever tags them in anything. And those are kind of giveaways. And the story I was telling before, basically she called the guy out on this stuff that she had been talking to, and he just disappeared. So that guy was probably a predator.
How is at what point does the average citizen, where does their responsibility and their efforts stop to avoid this, and where does sort of law enforcement and some of the work you do, when does that come in?
Well, I think it's a combination of it's difficult because I personally believe that it's better to try and stop a problem than it is to actually become a victim. So what I try to teach people things that they can do to protect themselves, so they never really get to that point where they need law enforcement intervention, because it's doable. It's definitely doable to protect yourself and to learn these skills and to take kind of a Swiss cheese layered approach where, you lay you do a little security and lay one piece of cheese, then another piece of Swiss cheese on top, and eventually all the holes get covered.
Again, Tyler, your work, so to speak, your profession is exactly this. That is researching and trying to go after and find out what's going on out there and who's doing things malicious to one another. Do you believe that the war, so to speak, on phishing, the war on online predators, pretenders, and perpetrators, are we winning that war, or is it just everything we can do just to stay even?
That's a really tough question because I see the victims. I see the bad side of it. So I don't necessarily see the other side, but I do think that there are things that we can do. I mean, I think, having more books like this, parents educating themselves on how to protect their kids and themselves, kids educating themselves on what to look for. But I really do believe that schools need to get involved as well, and I think that schools need to add social media skills to their current curriculums. I mean, we teach math skills, we teach social studies, and these are skills that children will use throughout their lives. Well, we use this social media and this online domain. It's a part of our daily lives, and it's a pretty significant part, and we operate in this domain. And there's really no manual out there, which is why I wrote the book, but I do think schools need to add this skill to their curriculum.
When it comes to understanding cybercrime, when it comes to understanding protecting your identity, is it possible, again, at least on the North American continent, that young people, we'll just say minors, 18 and under, 21 and under for sure, are smarter than their parents?
I don't know if I would say that they're smarter. They just understand the technology better because it's something that they've grown up with. And I think it's imperative that the parents of young kids who are just starting to use this technology take the approach that they're going to actually work with their kids. They're going to, monitor some of the things that they're doing. They're going to be on the same social media sites and friends with their kids. They're going to use the same apps that their kids are using. And they're going to have rules and restrictions, because it's a lot easier to teach a young kid than it is to say, you have a 17-year-old who's been using social media without any restrictions, and then all of a sudden you read a book like mine and you try to pull in the reins. It's a lot harder to do that. But it's doable. You do this for a living, but as you were doing additional research, anything that you found out that was alarming to you, or maybe even on the other hand, reassuring to you? Well, I mean, one of the catalysts for the book is a story that a former agent I worked for told me, and it was, a parent was self-disclosing information about her kid, putting her child at risk, and she didn't even realize she was doing it. And so, I really that is the kind of stuff that I think people really need to be cognizant about, and they need to be aware of. They really need to take control and educate themselves on these tools that they use, instead of just saying, well, this is a tool that I use. You have to learn how to drive a car. I think you should have to learn how to use these tools and have a basic understanding of them.
What about, and again, we've sort of touched on this off and on, but let's hop over to the world of online dating. That is something that is growing by leaps and bounds, and undoubtedly Tyler Wood has an opinion about that, I would think.
Absolutely. I mean, it works. I've seen online dating work. I've been to 4, and I'm about to go to the 5th wedding this year of people who met online dating. So, if you do it smartly and if you're safe about it, it's something that works, and it's something that is becoming accepted in our culture as a way of meeting people, but you have to be safe about it. You have to be secure.
Do you the software writers, the computer companies, web companies, search engines, etc., are you heartened by their work and their advances and their commitment to help keep all of this kind of cybercrime at bay?
I think a lot of companies and a lot of people are really trying to do the right thing, and so yes, I think the answer to that question is yes, I am. But, at the same time, the more we rely on technology, which is something that we do, the more bugs there are going to be in software, and the more chances and threats and risks there are for hackers, getting into that software.
What about, again, as you start to look down the road to the future, it's impossible to predict, obviously, but again, are you feeling generally encouraged, or is it just literally you got to push this rock every single day?
Well, I'm kind of an optimist, so I do think that we are going to get there, and I think that people will take more control over their online experiences. I do think that at some point, schools will start educating and teaching kids these social media life skills. And I do have a positive. I do think the future will be positive, because social media is one of the most powerful tools that we have available to us. It connects us in ways instantly that we just never were before. We have instant access to experts, to information, and if we use it, it's the most powerful tool we have available to us.
Well, it is a subject that touches all of us. It touches our families. It touches our friends. It touches our work. Touches those around us for sure. The work is called Catching the Catfishers, Disarm the Online Pretenders, Predators, and Perpetrators Who Are Out to Ruin Your Life, written by Tyler Cohen Wood. Again, a senior officer and cyber branch chief for the Defense Intelligence Agency within the Department of Defense. She lives in the belly of the beast, so to speak, fighting this probably, frankly, at all turns each and every day. Tyler, the book is published by Career Press, but how can people get a copy of it and find out more about this subject?
Well, I have a website, and I do a video blog on the website, which is tylercohenwood.com, and you can buy the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any bookstore. You can get the book.
Well, we appreciate your insights, appreciate your talents and the work that you're doing in the Department of Defense, and would love to have you back on again someday and kind of get a little bit of a progress report.
Well, thank you so much. I would love that, and I really appreciate you having me.
You bet. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.